All right, good morning, everybody. I'm calling to order our Connecticut State Advisory Council for Special Education Executive Committee meeting. And today is Wednesday, May 13th. And it is 9:32. At least it's not Friday, right? My name is Missy Wrigley, and I am the chair as well as a parent member. So welcome. Any public comment this morning?
There is nobody for public comment this morning.
Okay, thank you. All right, so our first order of business is our agenda for April 10th, the minutes for that. Any corrections for anybody? I did review them briefly this morning. I don't think I saw any, but I don't always catch everything, so.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
All right, Susan, can I get a second?
This is Jen.
Jen? All right, any abstentions, Brian?
I'll abstain. I
Okay.
I didn't attend.
Yep,
Thank you.
and all of those in favor? Raise
Aye.
hand, say aye. Good. Any not in favor? Okay, Catherine, we were just approving the minutes. Any problem with the minutes? I don't know if you were here when we reviewed.
Yeah, I was here. No problem with the
Okay.
minutes.
All right, good. Then all approved. All right. So looking at old business, our operational procedures. So I took, again, I'll apologize for not getting them to you sooner. I don't know. I get all these different projects that I'm working on, and multitasking isn't always a good thing. So, I went through and I put in the notes from our full meeting. Geez, it doesn't seem to still be up. All right. Let me pull it up. Oh, wrong one. Okay. All right. Can I share my screen?
Hang on one second. We might. She all set?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Okay, good. All right. Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
We can.
Yes.
Anything specific in chat? I see there's a couple of things there, but I don't.
No, we're good.
All right. I don't have my other computer down here, so I can't do both. All right. Susan, I know you said that you had added something in to the section on Robert's rules. Is that?
So
Or what?
after our last full sack, I had put a couple of, I had put several comments in because you had asked us to do that, so I don't know where they are. So I was thinking maybe
All
we
right,
should
so
go
then
through and
all
resolve
right.
comments.
Yeah, hold on. They would be, I thought I checked the
I did a
other
couple
one,
today
but
too.
yeah, no. Um,
So what you're discussing is the email I had sent everybody today is that we had a question mark on public participation in our meetings, and I thought we should go maybe
Yeah.
just base it off of Robert's Rules of Orders, and then I took a peek and I saw that there was also Connecticut open meeting law, which we are following in our bylaws too, has specific rules, and I had put those in the email.
Okay. Let me move these over here for now so I can see this. Well, this is the one,
That's a long time ago.
all
right?
right. Yeah, so, okay, let me see which
Somehow
one
they
you
didn't
put
get
it
in
in
here.
Susan,
then.
that was sent today?
Yeah, I sent an email today.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, I
yes.
see it. I see it. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, it would have been the one, you have the April 23rd one draft open. It was the one that was just worked on a couple minutes ago.
Yeah,
See,
that's, all right, that's the one I thought I have open.
Hmm,
All right,
I don't see any
again,
comments.
no,
Good job, Sue. Sorry, I thought I had put all these comments in. Obviously, maybe I didn't send. I could have sworn because I did replies and comments. I did it in the document that was last worked on, and it wasn't so.
okay.
Yeah, do you see it says my thing and it says 44 minutes ago?
Yes, yeah.
That's weird. Okay.
Also was in this one. You didn't put it in that one, right?
No,
That was the other one.
I went to the one that
Okay.
looked like it was last worked on.
All right. All right. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. But Jeff is looking right now at the email I sent because it probably should be
Yep.
the open meeting law. I don't know what anybody else thinks.
Yeah, I mean, that's taken right from the FOI stuff, so.
Yeah. That's just, yeah.
I
Now
don't,
that,
do we have ready access to our bylaws? Because as Susan, captured in these comments here, um, even though a meeting is public and open to the public does not have an inherent right to speak unless it's provided to them, say so you could have a committee that says we're gonna have a time for public commentary, I'm just wondering if in our bylaws, if we have anything mentioning that there should be public commentary or not.
We do have public comment is mentioned in our bylaws, and I think it's specific.
So I'm looking to see if I can find what our bylaws are. I don't know where I do that.
yeah, hold on. I'm pulling them up.
Good job, Missy.
It takes me a while to find everything.
You're pretty good at this.
Okay. Function of council. Membership. Officers. Committees.
I had actually a question about uh, the nomination of members, because our draft says that the proposed members will be presented to the executive committee before they are presented to the members to vote on. And I'm fine with that. And I don't think, maybe is Jo Viana here? Maybe not.
She's not here.
Okay, so I did check the bylaws, and our bylaws say that only student membership candidates will be presented to the executive committee for preliminary appointment. So the bylaws do not specify that the membership committee must present the other membership candidates to the executive committee first. I think that the membership committee work together on this proposal and, you know, thought it would be a good idea to present all candidates to the executive committee, but I just wanted to point out that the only candidate as specified by the bylaws that must be presented to the executive committee before the members have the opportunity to vote is the student candidate.
And actually, it should probably be student and the para educator because we added those, not legislatively mandated members.
Right.
And I think that's why membership team had recommended we move to
Okay.
all
Oh, yeah.
members as part of our procedures.
Yeah. I mean, I just think it's good practice to present everyone to the executive committee, but I just wanted to point out that it's not specified in the bylaws. But I think that this document should stand as is with the recommendation made by the membership committee. If everyone's okay with that. Okay.
All right,
Great.
so clarify for me what it is you want.
To leave it as is, I just wanted to point out that it differs a bit from the bylaws, the SAC bylaws, but I think
Should
that
we? All right, so maybe we should put a note somewhere or that when we update the bylaws again, that we change
Mhm.
that instead of
Yeah.
changing the bylaws now. I don't know if we have to change them now, but we should record that somewhere so that because I would think that they should be the same as procedures as the bylaws and stuff. So
Yeah.
Catherine, I'm looking at, I'm on the bylaws and, so on Article 4, Membership, Section 1. It says the council shall be composed of 37 members pursuant to section blah, 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 of the statutes. The membership committee will work to identify interested active candidates with disabilities, to serve a 1-year term as a voting student member of the council. The 1-year term may be extended for an additional year upon approval of the full council.
No, it's further down. Okay, now I'm scrolling and I'm making a mess of myself here. Okay, under Article 6, under committees, if you scroll down to Section 7,
Okay, I'm there.
and it says, if you go to the middle of the paragraph, where it says every effort will be made to solicit potential
Oh, I
members.
see it. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Student
then-
membership
yeah,
candidates will be presented to the executive committee for preliminary appointment. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then after that, it just says the committee will then prepare the slate of student member candidates for the council. Council will vote on such slate of student member candidates at the subsequent meeting. So that's the only specification that I could find in the bylaws that states a potential member needs to be presented to the executive committee, but it does make sense to change the bylaws at some point in time to reflect the language that we put forth here, where everyone would be presented to the executive committee.
Okay, so you want to amend the bylaws to make it where everyone, not just students, are going to the executive committee first for kind of like a pre-approval, then after the pre-approval stamp from the executive committee onto the full committee?
Yes, are we able to propose that change now, or is that something we need to
Well,
table?
so under Article 10, which is on the last page, Section 1 is entitled, well, there's amendments. It goes, we did this before, if you remember, not that long ago. These bylaws
Okay.
may be amended by a 2/3 vote of members in office and by proxy at any regular or special meeting of the council,
Okay.
provided that such amendment has been submitted in writing to all council members not less than 21 days prior to the meeting. Remember, we did that, I think was it last fall or something like that.
Okay.
And we had to do things to make the 21-day cutoff
Mhm.
time. So we can do what you're saying. We just have to propose it and have it on the agenda and then have 21 days advance notice.
Okay. And we probably
Well,
won't.
then it's possible that we could do that during the retreat.
Yep.
Okay.
But other than that, if we can, pull that together before then,
Okay.
I would think that it will probably be 21 days before we actually have the retreat. So,
I have a quick,
Okay.
I have a quick question, while we're in membership. Am I wrong, but we currently have two speech and language members? No, what's,
Um, we do, but one will be leaving. I think this was discussed, and Jovi isn't here. I will touch base with her, but I believe that this was, I don't know if Brian was at a where we talked about it, or if Jovi and I had a conversation with him, but that is being addressed.
yeah, because membership should know if someone's being
Mhm.
appointed. It's pretty important.
Yeah.
okay. All right.
And if we're going back to the membership, the non-member participation, Jeff, this is separate from our public comment. This is for when someone is a member who can't make a meeting and instead they send somebody else in their stead. Is it steed or stead? Jeff, you would know that. And then that they don't have the right to participate. Um, and also, if we have a parent that comes to our meeting, we have to have rules in place or for participation that it's only during public comment and that if you're not a member, not a member organization, but a member is that's so I was trying to follow the rules because it has to kind of fall down on the chair to keep that. They need a set of rules to follow when that happens.
What was the part about you saying about somebody sending like, a substitute to come in just to be there to hear what's going on?
So we had an instance where a member could not make a committee meeting. Instead, they sent somebody from their agency,
Okay,
and that person should not have been there speaking as a member. They participated as if they were a member.
okay.
And then we've also had the instance with a parent coming, and we weren't sure what to do with the parent. We wanted to hear from them, but we didn't really have anything set up beyond public comment rules, if that makes sense. So I was wondering if we should go by the Connecticut open meeting law, which is what exists, or Robert rules. When you have a non-member that would like a comment, that it should be strictly to the public comment. Unless they're invited. See, there's all sorts of rules, like unless they're invited by the executive committee to come and speak or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if somebody is appointed, they're appointed as a person. They're not appointed as an agency. They're a representative of the agency. So I agree. I don't think that the substitute can participate.
I just wanted to ask a question in regards to, and I don't know how it works in this space because I'm in too many spaces and sometimes I get a little confused with what is guiding. But is this a space where someone could designate a proxy or we're not able to do that either?
We are not able to designate a proxy. We are appointed members or voted members. Is that right? Because I can't then have my friend come and be my proxy who has a student that's has a
No, and that's the only reason why I was asking. I was
Yeah.
just asking more so like, for example, if you are on this here representing an organization, but you're an individual, I get that. But if you're here because of your position or your company's, role in special
Right.
education, would that be a reason? And not necessarily just more of a person. I think like parent representative is a different different lane, but I just was curious around like more organizations that are here represented due to the work that they do in the community.
Right. Yeah. I believe past talks and someone else can jump in. We felt that if a parent or student can't switch out, then a group can't, because that person that showed up was kind of disruptive. They didn't really know what was going on, and it wasn't beneficial for us because they kind of just jumped in. So we felt, for fairness, I don't know. Jen, you were the one who had talked with us about that. Missy, do you guys have a thing?
Yeah, I recall the situation that you're bringing up. And I think also part of what we discussed was that when they just send in anybody to come and participate in the SAC, that person is not really brought up to speed on all of our previous discussions. They haven't attended all the meetings. And if they're giving input on something, and again, for that fairness piece we had discussed. So sorry about my voice.
No, I
I back
think
up
that
on
was the
something?
general consensus.
Can I back up on something that was mentioned before, and I just wanted to
Come
clarify?
on. I didn't know you were here.
Hi,
Hi.
I am
Sean.
here. Hi. So Jen, your voice is really lovely. So that's number one. Second, I'm looking through all the email chain. I believe that Kim is our SLP and the other person was legislatively appointed. I'm emailing Brian just for clarification. Not as an SLP, she's a legislative appointment. So I'm emailing Brian for clarification related to this, and I will ask him for that. So just
Right, because we don't have a spot for a speak unless she's a legislator, right? We don't have
Yeah, if you can double check, Sean, because I believe that may be a legislatively appointed position. So I appreciate you double checking.
yeah, I saw the emails back and forth with Jolie, Catherine. So that's why I wanted to forward to Brian again. I am asking him, just please clarify with me what this is.
Thanks.
So I know that the last time we kind of asked was in March, so I'm just going back to it again.
Thank you.
All right, Susan, your comments are here, but they were later, they were under the comments, public comment section. So they are here. So your Robert
Thank
Rules
you.
comment is here, not under the Robert Rules section. So you did do it. You did do it. So,
Thank you, Missy. I was losing my mind.
all right. So is the feeling that because I thought that your email was very succinct and really spelled things out. The key aspects of non-members' participation, what that looks like. Is it okay for us to take and just put that into our procedure piece, operational procedures, so that we have that?
I think we should, the no right to speak, we should clarify that they do have a right to speak under our public participation.
Correct, and that's
Yeah.
and that's clearly stated in our bylaws. It says participation is at the discretion of the board.
Yeah, because
but
I
under
literally asked, I asked AI to
Yeah.
clarify this for me. This is not Susan Yankee being smart.
Just as long as you don't
All
get
right.
AI to sing for you.
I wish.
Okay, so question, this is AI, then it is not specific to any Robert's rules or meeting rules or anything of that nature? Okay,
Well, as a state agency, we're bound by the FOI. I mean, Robert's Rules is kind of a parliamentary procedure thing as to how you do votes and stuff like that. But that's not going to supersede the FOI. So the FOI, but this seems to be, just without going a deep dive, to be consistent with what the FOI provides. So
Okay. So then just adding that to the public comments, sorry, why is my phone? Adding that to the public comment. And just fixing the section on no right to speak, we'll put in there that, I'll put in there per sec bylaws. Public does have the right to speak during this, the section of
Missy,
public
if you want to
comment
put
within
together
the
a
agenda.
draft and send it to me, I can work with you to put it so it can forward to the FOI if you'd like.
Okay,
And that parliamentary procedure, Jeff, that you're talking about would be really good in the welcome packet for whoever who is on the executive committee, the chair, because it's super valuable to know. I mean, like my first month, I had somebody that was being disruptive, and I was like, thank gosh I looked at Robert Rules of Order. So just having something like that in the packet would be really great.
Well, also under the FOI Act, there is a provision in there about somebody being disruptive at a meeting that you can ask for them to leave. You can clear the room and invite people back in. So there is a disruptive component in the FOI Act as well.
okay. Are
Guys,
we
can I
okay
say
with
something?
this?
Can I just say, I am supposed to have a meeting in a few minutes. Can I
Yes.
just like leapfrog a second? I don't have
Yep.
really anything to add to the legislative thing at this point. I mean, the session's over. Um, I reached out to Tom Koski yesterday to see if he had any, some ideas. I didn't hear back that I'm aware of. He could have sent one to me, but I don't see it. Anyhow, so I just wanted to go on the record of this legislative session is over.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, that way if I have to leave, at least we got that. Sorry about that.
Okay. All right. Anything, it's going on 10 o'clock, so, anything else specific to the, bylaws, not bylaws, operational procedures, that we need to address?
I put some little notes in, Missy, but if you can just peek at those later. Nothing's important, super important.
All right, let's work our way backwards here and see what we got.
I had suggested, because we've had multiple people help us and we've had solitary persons, so I thought we should just remove the word team because it's just administrative and clerical support, because we might not always have the benefit of having more than one person.
Yeah, I'm just gonna sign out of a meeting right now.
Bye, Jeff.
Well, you're being called, Jeff. Have a good one. I don't have a problem with that. Anybody have a problem with that? Okay. All right. Sean, I don't know if you're still on, but I had asked for you and Brian to review the CSDE section. I added some comments that were made from our last meeting. But I'm sure there are things that are missing, so,
Still here. Yeah, Brian and
Oh,
I
good.
will definitely review it. I know
Okay.
Brian usually likes to have the final word as far as these sections are concerned, so we will review it and he will make some revisions to it.
Okay, thank you. Sorry if I'm making anybody dizzy. All right, so this particular line, Vice Chair will assist with time-sensitive priorities and delegated tasks. I think it's pretty, I think it's what the Vice Chair does, but it's not specific to, it doesn't state that in our bylaws. So I wasn't sure if, because it's not in the bylaws, if it's can, if we should leave it in here anyways, you know,
It's
it just seems to
appropriate.
make
It's our
sense to,
operational procedures. So while we
yeah,
have to be aligned with the bylaws, it doesn't preclude us from adding things in there that are part of our procedures that we do. It's really to help set up the next team that comes in because we
yeah.
can't be
I
here
mean, it just
forever.
seems, yeah, it just seems to be, you know, what we do. So I think that's fine. Okay. All right. So that is good. That is good. We will continue working on this. I don't know that we'll actually have it final for maybe by our summer retreat it'll be final. But we'll at least share with the full council the things that we do have by our next meeting. So, all right. I am going to stop sharing and we will go back to our agenda. Any other housekeeping items under old business that we need to discuss?
I just went over kind of what we were talking about, our old to do from our when you sent the minutes, and there's something about Sean was going to ask about FOIA and the whole 7 days. Did you ever get any time to do that, Sean? And then we were talking about how to do meeting holds with the contracts. That was something that we were trying to figure out.
I didn't, Susan. I will do that
Okay.
though.
Thank you. I know everybody's got lots in this. That's May. I don't know why May is so crazy.
I know you
What's
brought it
the
up at
what?
our last meeting too, Susan. So it's on Brian's radar too. So let me run it by him when I speak to him.
Mille grazie.
What was the second one, Susan? Meeting holds?
So remember, because of the way the contract works, nobody gets meeting holds. It's up to whoever the chair is to use their personal account. And then we've had a lot of confusion this year with that.
All right.
And I almost feel like we should be talking about the whole like registration thing because making things, I don't know how we can make it simpler, but that's something that Sean and Brian have to take care of with Cirque.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. New business. So topics for our May 20th meeting. I wish Brian were here. I don't know if there is anything specific he has for review. I mean, we will present whatever final draft we have for the operational procedures.
You guys know I always speak. This is my last executive committee meeting, so I'm thrown to the wall. So roundtable.
Sweetheart, you can say anything you want.
Okay. So roundtables are sometimes we get this great discussion and then sometimes it's like crickets. And I would love, even if agencies had nothing, a problem to share, I personally, as a member who doesn't have a lot of link to the agencies, would love to know what's going on in their agency. Like what's at the top of their plate that's relevant to the SAC. And I don't know how to make that happen, even if it's something fabulous. I would really love more information about like what's going on in the agencies, if that makes any sense. And I don't know what anybody else feels like that.
Maybe something that we do is do like a guide to roundtable discussion for all members, and maybe have some guiding questions that they can consider as they prepare. Because we wanted to do that for the students anyway, so we could just also make a general one.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, so right now, what we say in in the talk notes that I have is our roundtable is our portion of the meeting for SAC members to share any unmet needs or positive outcomes from their interest stakeholders. Just a reminder that this is not a place to announce upcoming events. And then if you have an event, contact Jen. But we could add more into that, so that every meeting we're asking for more comments, but it has gotten pretty not a lot.
And I feel like we're having less people. I don't know what's going on, or I don't know if anybody else feels that way because I don't have actual numbers.
I don't know if people are just really stretched, and maybe that's also one of the reasons why there hasn't been any robust information shared at Roundtable. I can't speak for all stakeholder groups, but my experience is that things are pretty lean where I am right now, and it's really been back to basics. So I think that's one of the reasons why I haven't had anything really exciting to share, or also any concerns to share.
I think it's a sign of the times.
Do we
Yeah.
do we have a list of because this is when we kind of finalize our priorities for next year, right? And then don't we start talking again? And the ones in July are for, I mean, the priorities for this past year, and then July we start talking about next year. Do we really have a grasp on what our priorities are for the legislative session? Am I correct? This is kind of where we end. Catherine, do you remember that? How it works?
Yeah. Yeah, it's about this time when, yeah, there's a switch over.
Because it would be awesome to know what has been passed, because I noticed the 24-hour notification. I'm sorry, Jeff's not here because he worked so hard on that for restraint and seclusion, right? At less than 24 hours or same day notification passed, right?
Same day.
Things like
It was
that. It'd be
passed.
great. Yeah, it'd be awesome to know like what has passed that we've really focused on and what are still like our priorities.
That would be something that Brian could share during the next meeting, I'm sure, as far as legislation that has passed. I'm sure that that's something that could be discussed at the next meeting. So, Missy, we could put that on the schedule too. He could go
Yeah.
over legislation that's passed during this session.
And then we'll go over do we have somewhere, Christine or Lauren, do we have somewhere like the priorities that we've discussed, or does that Brian too?
I think we have it. Didn't we have or didn't we create? I mean, from our annual plan, we talk
Mhm.
about our
Right.
priorities, so we could discuss the priorities that we had, and then we could talk about the legislation, so we could do a kind of a comparison between the two.
Yeah, and that
And
would be
it would
super
be, yeah, and then in July, or not July, but sometime during the summer, whenever it is we meet, even if we kind of blow that up kind of larger, and then, we can kind of say, uh, this is done and complete and stuff like that, so that when we're talking about priorities for next year, we can look at what we actually did and what was accomplished. And then if something wasn't accomplished, then do we want to carry that over for next year and what that's going to look like? So we can do that for the retreat also.
And I
and
seem to recall we did that at the retreat last year too. That worked out really well.
Yeah.
and our legislators will be back and maybe they can help us because they know so much more than us on really kind of what people are talking about, what things were passed on, why.
That's a good point. And then also they may be able to share what additional information would be helpful for us to gather to share with legislators. Because it could be they're on the fence about making certain decisions because they just didn't have enough information, and we could be a resource there.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. All right, any other topics that we want to bring up?
We have to have our officers set for next year, the executive committee and our officers. Members, new
I
members.
haven't heard
Catherine, new members,
anything.
that would be on
Yeah.
that agenda, right?
Yeah, yep, we do have some candidates. The membership meeting last month was insanely productive. It was pretty awesome.
Are you gonna
Okay.
present those today, Catherine?
Yes, Christine is getting the list. Jen, do you have the list? I know we don't want to mention the names right now.
I
For
can
some
get
reason, you have it? Okay, because we can go into executive session and Missy, when you think it's an appropriate time, and we can share that information.
Okay. Can we wait till we get to the membership committee piece?
Absolutely.
All right. All right. Well, then let's move quickly because I'm excited. All right. We don't have a lot of time left here. When we get down to calendar meeting dates, I have a little note that I recommend that this executive committee be 90 minutes and not an hour. We don't ever seem to be able to finish in just the hour. But that's up for conversation. All right. So Brian's not here. I don't know how much we can discuss about the summer retreat at this point in time. Christine, I don't know if you've had any conversation with Brian about any preliminary looking at, I don't know.
So yeah, Cirque has reached out to Brian to have the conversation. And right now we're kind of working out a little bit of those details between Brian and Cirque. One thing that would be helpful, is, if we have even some dates we're considering, and the venue that I know we love Saybrook Point, would we be open to, if we can't get Saybrook Point on a certain date, would we be open to another venue? So more information we could give to Brian and Sean, the better that, we'll be able to move forward.
Correct. To add to that, if we were going to do the hybrid
Well, hello there,
situation
Miss
again.
Lauren.
Hello. That hybrid did
didn't
not
know you
work
were
very
on.
well. I am.
So the hybrid works very well at Saybrook Point, though.
It didn't because they don't have the it's one computer. It's not actually in their system, whereas other places they actually have it in the system, so that we wouldn't be having to use all the separate devices. But we will actually talk to them in other locations depending on when we talk to Brian and Sean.
Right. And the thing that gets the members is something that is a nice,
Yeah.
am I correct? Right,
I agree
Missy?
with
We
you.
all love taking a break sitting outside.
Yeah. No, and it is a lovely atmosphere there. It really is. So, we want to see if we can really work with it and see what we can do.
You see Nachi smiling? He's gonna learn.
Oh, absolutely. So
Yeah,
if you guys
yeah.
could think of some dates that would be maybe helpful for us to go by, and we could start digging and finding out a little more information as we dig.
Another option, and again, I'm just throwing it out there, another option to consider is Water's Edge. I don't know if
Oh,
they
I like
have,
that too.
yeah, people could stay on afterwards and do spa treatments if they wanted to on their own. But who doesn't love a good spa? And so I just asked because they also have the conference centers there. And so that probably has more capability as far as the computers and things like that. So I offer that as an option as someone who's done
Sean,
Yeah,
I adore you. I've already I already looked into it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I
We
I
did,
know I've
yeah.
done conferences there in the past. So
Yeah, no, Sean, you're
Yes,
right. And I live in Westbrook, so I have a lot. I'm there pretty much every other week, I would say. And what I love is they do have a little bit more of the technology capability. So one thing I did with the community here was really cool is a cooking demonstration, and they were able to provide the technology to project things and to use camera to move about the room. So I thought that was really cool. So when Laura and I got talking, I said, they might have the technology we need, plus the atmosphere. It might be one of those that we could make this happen. And Lauren got on it, I think, already. Am I right? Yeah.
I did. Yeah, we
Yeah.
got quote.
it
We
is,
just
it is an excellent second choice. It really is. I've had lots of conferences there, and we've done a lot of sessions there, and it's going to sit out back there is just as it doesn't have all the boats and everything, but it's very nice and it's very relaxing. So it's a good choice if that's a better option for us for technology pieces, because we do have quite a few people who need to do the hybrid. Although we wish that they would come in person, because this is a fun one to be in person, but the other thing is, as far as dates are concerned, it's at least for me, it's difficult to suggest dates without knowing Brian's schedule, because it's important for him to be there for this particular activity, and I don't want to, um, you know, to move around that.
Did you
I
see,
can,
did you see Jen in the chat, Missy?
no, I don't have, I can put the
It says
chat
needs to be
open.
a Wednesday. Usually we pick a few Wednesdays, and then Sean can tell us like if that's the Wednesday that Brian has like the big board meeting, and then we send those to Brian. Am I correct, guys?
yes.
And we usually make
Yeah.
it around 10 a.m. so people can get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
know
that's
it's usually around 10.
and that's the case. I mean, usually if we pick a few Wednesdays, we can usually work around that piece. So he can do that in the summer. It's not as I don't like to say it's not as crazy, but because it is the summer, he usually has a little more flexibility.
All right, if I'm looking at my calendar, um as far as Wednesdays in July, I'm not available on the 22nd or the 29th. So, the 8th or the 15th work for me. I could do the 22nd, but I'd leave early because I have an appointment at 2 o'clock that I would have to get to, but I can't do the 29th at all.
I could do any
Yes.
of them.
Yeah.
I can do any of them except the 29th.
We want to probably stay away from the first just because it's so close to the fourth.
Yeah.
Mm. Can we recommend either the 8th or the 15th?
You could probably
Or
recommend
for-
that. Nachi, what do you got? I'm not on.
I'm better on the 8th than the 15th. In looking at those two.
We could do the 22nd too. And I mean, I won't
No, I
be
actually
there
can't.
early.
No, I was wrong. I'm looking at my calendar. I have something on the 14th, so I could do the 8th and the 15th.
Okay.
We want to go into August and propose a few dates in August.
Sean, you read my mind again. Oh my.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking as far as contracting is concerned and timing.
Yeah, Lauren and I have mentioned that too, that boy, August would work out so much better.
Yeah.
I think in
don't,
the past we haven't because most of the parents, their kids will be done ESY in August, and that's typically when they'll go on vacation. So we lose half the parent members.
Yeah, that's why we stay away from August.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what my August week of vacation is going. I know my husband wants to go away, but I don't know when. So, um,
Yeah, I'm not
August
available.
might be rough.
We can try the 8th and the 15th. I will put them out there to him and see if he's available.
I know
Okay.
the 15th, Lauren and I were talking, we have stuff on our calendars on the 15th.
All right. Well, why don't we do the 22nd?
Yeah.
Put the 8th and the 22nd.
Okay.
If the 22nd works for everybody else. And I can always check to see if I can change that appointment. It's only the dentist, so if I don't go, I don't go, but it is what it is. I can see if it can be changed. It's far enough ahead of time that I can probably do that. So why don't we try the 15th and the 22nd?
I think it's the 8th
Does
and the
that work?
22nd, Missy.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
I'm sorry. Yes, the
No,
8th and
there-
the 22nd. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. 8th and 22nd. All right. We're supposed to set calendar meeting dates for the 26, 27. Um, again, I know they're, for the full meeting. If we look at the, I did put a template in here for our meeting schedule. I didn't put it for all of them. I only did it for the full SAC meeting.
You put that up, Missy, pretty please.
Yeah, I'm just pulling it up here and then I'll share. Okay. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. So those were the months and the times that we had, which ones were virtual and which ones were in person. Some of that changed towards the end of the year, but I went back to what the template was at the beginning of the year to keep with that. And a typical year, 5 virtual meetings, 3 in person, hybrid meetings. One of the in-person meetings is usually designated as a legislative breakfast held at the LOB. This has typically been held in October. Meetings are typically held on the 4th Wednesday of the month. In-person meetings will be set up by the administrative support team. Meetings have been held at CREC, Hartford, and at the Goodwin University in East Hartford. So I don't know if we want to try to set any of these at this point in time. Thoughts? If we're looking at September,
Missy, we usually every year just try to stick to similar dates, if that makes any sense.
yeah,
So I don't know, usually we walk through the calendar and then we try to avoid the state board of ed meetings for Brian.
correct.
And I think the other thing just to be sensitive to, if I remember this year, was just some of the holidays too. These fell on a few of the Jewish holidays, and we had some members that couldn't
Yes.
attend. No,
Yes, that was very true.
that was a little tricky.
All right. So we had Last year, we had September 24th. The fourth Wednesday is the 23rd. I'm just going to type them in here for right now because I
Mhm.
can't do more than one thing at a time here. If somebody can pull up a calendar that has the holidays on it, my Google Calendar does not have that.
I have the calendar in front of me.
Thank you. All right, October, last year we had the 15th. The fourth Wednesday is 1, 2, 3, the 28th. Which is the week of Halloween. Stop me if people have issues with any of these. November, last year we did the 19th. This year, the fourth Wednesday is the 25th, which is the day before Thanksgiving. So I think that's probably why it was moved to the third Wednesday. So the third Wednesday would be the 18th.
That works out.
Okay. Then we're
The only
moving to,
concern, just really quickly to go back to September,
Yep.
Yom Kippur, wait a minute here. It starts on the 20th of September. But let me just triple check. I got like multiple calendars open. Give me one second. Well, I think it's just yes, that Sunday and Monday. So we're fine. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Okay. We moved to January. We had it on the 28th. The fourth Wednesday is 1, 2, 3, the 27th. February, we had it on the 25th. The fourth Wednesday is the 24th.
To just go back to January, I mean, I'm not 100% sure if this matters again for this year, but I do remember we ended up changing it due to the State Board of Ed meeting, but I don't know if that's going to be a similar situation for this year. I mean, well, not this year, but you know what I mean.
Right. I
So let
don't
me look
know.
up, let me see if they have their calendar posted. Yes.
Missy, I think some of us will have to hop off soon. I didn't know if you wanted to do the
Yeah.
membership piece so that we can move them
Yeah.
forward. Sorry.
Yep.
I know,
No,
yeah,
that's good.
Thanks, Jen. Yeah.
All right, then
Um, can-
let's move to that because I'm excited about
Yeah.
hearing.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to move into executive session.
I'll
So
second
that
it.
Thank you.
Can we stop recording? Recording again, please.
All right, so let me see. Hopefully I'm saying it correctly. I'd like to make a motion to put forth to the full council members at the next SAC full council meeting, our candidates for special education teacher, charter school representative, and student representative. so that the members may have the opportunity to vote.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? All right, so moved. Thank you very much.
Welcome. And I'm sorry, everyone, I have to hop off, but it was really nice
No,
to
that is
see you.
fine.
Yes, thank you, Catherine. This is great.
Very
This
nice.
is great.
welcome. All right,
You
see y'all
guys did a
soon.
good job.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Well, that is exciting. So that is good.
Mm.
These are the bylaws. What happened to my? Oh, here it is. All right, just very quickly, let's just try to finish this section, so we can be done.
I wouldn't worry about CSDE. I think that that was just a one-off for this particular year.
All right, make sure, I'm sure Brian will double check everything anyways, and then let us know.
And then
All right.
Missy, I know we're out of time, but also we set executive committee meetings up till December. So that's something I guess you could do offline and then just send it out to people.
Executive committee up through December.
Yeah, usually we do it through at least through December.
But we need to make sure that we have chair and vice chair, right? Do we,
Right.
because
Right.
do we have that?
I
Or
don't
no?
know. I have not heard anything.
Have that either. So maybe we
Okay.
don't set it without them since they kind of have to be there.
Good thought.
Yeah. Sounds like a plan. Can we just real quick finish up? March last year was the, oh, where'd it go? Hi there. What is that? I don't want that. Okay. Jeez. All right. March last year was the 25th. The fourth Wednesday is the 24th. April was the 22nd. And the fourth Wednesday is the 28th. And then May, if needed, was the 20th. And the fourth is the
That's the 19th.
26th.
Oh, yeah, 26,
Um,
sorry.
Yeah,
Because
I'm not sure why it was moved to the third, maybe because the end of the year. Because you have teachers and stuff. I don't know when's, maybe it gets a little close to the end of the year, parents, end of the year, with students. Do you want to shoot for the 19th as opposed to the 26th? Thoughts?
I think that's fine.
yeah, that should be fine. And then you'll bring this up at the full meeting and then people will say, oh, that's school break, or so you'll get more information then.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't even looked at calendars, so yeah, that's true. All right, I will get this stuff up. I will send a quick email to Brian with these dates as well as a couple of things that we wanted to ask him. And then go from there. Anything else? Sorry, we're late. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Nobody wants to leave?
Gotcha, Nachi.
Second. Susan, all right.
Okay.